Okay, hello. What I wanted to do was just introduce everybody to my new vlog. So I've set up a YouTube channel called Millennials Coach, which will bring us interviews from experts and people who have been there, done it when it comes to business and entrepreneurship. And I'm really, really pleased to be able to have Brad Sugars as our first guest. So welcome, obviously, to the very first episode of this vlog. And the great thing to have Brad here is because he's the world's #1 business coach. And you'll see behind you, or behind me, should I say, that he is the founder of ActionCOACH, which is the world's #1 business coaching company, of which I'm a proud member of the family. So it's great to have Brad here. He's a serial entrepreneur, has bought, built, grown businesses all across the world, I think, pretty much, haven't you? There are probably not many countries in the world that you haven't built a business in, to be fair.
About 78 countries so far. So there's still a few to go, still 100 odd to go, but I've got most of the big ones.
Perfect. And also Brad is the author of, is it 17 books now?
16 released, the 17th one gets released end of this year. So
perfect. So 17 books as well, and any of my clients will know that they're essential reading in the reading list. So, and we might talk about a couple of them today. So it's great to have you here, Brad. Thanks very much for giving up your time to chat to me today.
Most welcome, buddy. Most welcome. Looking forward to chatting. You know, it's interesting as the millennials go forward, they're one of the most entrepreneurial groups that have ever existed. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, one of the interesting things is that I read a lot about millennials being really entrepreneurial and having entrepreneurial qualities, but also that at the minute, however, it's one of the, in terms of like generations, it actually has fewer people starting business at its age range than other generations were when they were in their 20s or 30s. And I suppose to try and have a look at a bit about that, I'd like to understand your story first, and when you started off as an entrepreneur, because I know that you, when you speak and write, you talk about starting off or having entrepreneurial tendencies at a really young age. So it'd be great to hear a bit about that if we could.
Yeah, look, I started out in business in my teenage years, and I think that one of the reasons why generations past have started businesses earlier is because we had to. Life wasn't as easy as it is today. You know, there's so much need for money. And I know for me at age 13, sitting there wishing I had a whole bunch of things that all my friends could afford and that I couldn't. And it was like, this is just crazy, you know, and so I thought, I'm just going to do it myself. So that's sort of the thing, taking it into your own hands. I know as generations go by, life does get easier. It just does. I mean, the technology makes life easier, the cost of living changes, all the things. But one of the big reasons why millennials are not shown as starting their own business is because they're actually starting micro businesses rather than full businesses. Yeah. And I think that's sort of the difference. You know, it's a simple little business from home. It's a computer-based business. It's developing an app or developing some online strategy. And whilst that's not classified as a business, it's definitely entrepreneurial.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, I talk to a lot of clients who have that term, which I'm not a great fan of, but I can't think of a better term, which is the idea of like the side hustle. So someone who creates a micro business on the side, hasn't left their day-to-day job yet, but sort of creates something that's ticking over nicely, but they're not necessarily sure where it's sort of, you know, where it goes next, really.
Yeah, but see, the point of that is the learning that comes with it. Because whilst, yeah, okay, we can sit down and say, all right, that doesn't actually develop any real business or anything, but the learning that comes with it, it's like the number of people that join multi-level marketing or network marketing groups and they learn sales or they learn marketing or they learn team building or they learn something along that nature. You got to remember the first 5 to 10 years of work is not designed for making money. The first 5 to 10 years of work is designed for learning. Right. So when you sit down and you start thinking, okay, where do I get a job? Well, you get a job with the best mentor. You get a job where you can learn the most. You don't get a job where it's all about the earning. It's if you do the right learning in those first 10 years of work or 5 years of work, this is why the factory, if you look at it, the Googles and Facebooks and Microsofts, they're a factory for churning out young entrepreneurs. These people go there, learn a bunch, leave, go start their own business and build a LinkedIn, or they go and build a Skype, or they go and build all of these things because they've had that learning experience with that, I guess the best teaching there is possible working for an entrepreneur. And that's why I also recommend for a lot of millennials, work for smaller businesses rather than bigger businesses, because then you get exposed to everything. In a massive corporate, you get put in your little box, and that's all you ever get exposed to. Whereas in a small business, you'll get exposed to sales and marketing and operations. You get to do a bunch of everything. And so you're learning a whole bunch more from that perspective.
Yeah. And so I suppose, what more do you think we can do to try and encourage people to take that approach, to set something up, to not necessarily try and go for the big glamorous stuff that they might see on the sort of the Instagrams of this world and
Look, when you read, if you read the book, The Millionaire Next Door, it was a book based on a study done here in the United States, which was 4,000 millionaire households were examined. How did they get to be millionaire households? And first thing that stood out was that number one, 75% or more owned their own business.
Right.
So, you sit there and you look at it, you see all these people that want to have the lifestyle. Well, less than 10% inherit it. Less than 10% are superstars, like, rock stars, movie athletes, etc. Less than 10% are people that have a job that get them to millionaire status. So what that means is that 75% of us, if we are to ever be a millionaire, have to do it through owning our own business. Yeah. And so the sooner you get into your own business, the faster you will learn. And that's just a simple reality of the speed of learning. You can learn a bunch through books, and I'd always suggest that. Seminars, books, vlogs, blogs, you name it, get the study that you need to. But also, learning on doing is the best way to do it. So I can't help but, even if it's part-time business, start a part-time business, even if it's, I remember one of my students years ago, his son started a business at age 11, which was manufacturing candles. He bought all the stuff. He paid his friends $1 a candle to make it. It cost him $1 a candle in materials. And he was selling them for $7 at the market on the weekend, beeswax candles. It's like, dang, this kid's got $2 in costs, and he's sitting at a thing making $5 a piece. His rent was only $15 at the market. So as soon as he sold 3, he was ahead.
Yeah.
And that's an 11-year-old boy. Dang, what can you turn your mindset to if you really want to? I guess that's the big part of it, is you've actually got to want it. You've actually got to have the desire to do it. And, being in business for yourself. I wrote a book called Billionaire in Training years ago and I've just finished a book called The Wealth Coach, which is really all about how does wealth happen? What is the path to wealth? And there's a reason it takes about 10 years, Sean, and that is the learning. It's not, there's 2 reasons, I guess. One is the economic cycle. You've got to go through a boom cycle to really be a part of the wealth process. But the second is that it's going to take you 10 years just to learn the stuff. That's the reality of it. Unless you grew up, and this is where I know my kids have a distinct advantage over most, it's not because I have money, it's because I've taught them about money. And unfortunately, most young people don't get taught about money from their parents. They don't get taught it at school. They've got to learn it off themselves. Yeah. For me, I had to learn it from mentors through books. I didn't actually have mentors that could teach me money. I just read book after book after book.
So when you started your first business, your first sort of proper business, then how did you go about getting that sort of expertise to give you advice, to give you sort of mentoring and support? Bear in mind, schools and parents and things like that aren't necessarily the people to go to.
Yeah, look, the reality is you have to make up in numbers what you lack in skill in the beginning. Yeah. You just had to work harder and do more. Yeah. I would always be at seminars. I would always be reading books. And I think that's the challenge. What people don't realize is the learning work is the hardest work of becoming a great business owner, because building a great business starts with building a great entrepreneur. And to be a great entrepreneur, you need to do the study, you need to do the learning. And, there's a reason why, Sean, they always joke that your first million is your hardest.
Yeah.
It's because you don't know what you're doing, and it's the same as the reason why your first business will be the hardest. Once you get to 10 businesses, the 10th one's dang easy. Yeah. Because you've learned on 9 of them. I know, like last week I bought company number 60 something, and it's the 16th one I currently own. And I sit there and I look at it, and it's, for me, it'll take about an hour a month to get that business to where it needs to be, just with the right team. Now, when I first started, it'd take me 70, 80 hours a week to turn a business around type thing, because I didn't really know what I was doing. I had to work my butt off.
So if you were giving advice now to a millennial who says, look, I know I want to go into business. I know I want to run my own business. I don't want to work for anybody else, or they won't necessarily have me because I'm not a person who would work in someone else's business. Where would you sort of start? Because I know in Billionaire and Training, you talk about sort of buying versus building and different models. Where would you advise someone to sort of start?
I think you've got to look at 3 things. Number one, what are you good at? What are you good at is the first thing you have to actually understand, and you can't just be good at something to build a business around it. You've actually got to be great at it. You've got to be great. I mean, if you ever watch the TV show Billions, there's a scene in that where he turns to his wife and she says, I need venture capital and all of that. And he turns to her, he says, and he's very blunt with her. And he says, it's not something you invented. It's not something you're brilliant at. It's not something anyone else can't just copy in an instant. And it was like, dang, he's real blunt about it. But the fact is, if you want to be successful in business, the thing that you're doing, someone in the business has to be great at it. Right. So that's the first thing to look at. Second is, what opportunities are there out there in the marketplace? Sometimes the opportunities are bigger than what you're great at. See, what you're great at might be sales, and therefore it doesn't matter what industry or what product or service you go into. It's you're great at sales. You can sell anything. Great. Look for the opportunities that are out there in the marketplace. Someone once made a very crazy statement that do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And that's complete nutter. It's not true. If you do what you love, you'll end up working 10 times harder than anybody else does. Because doing what you love means you work because you love it and you're great at it type thing. So got to look for opportunities. The third thing I would say is that sometimes you have to realize is that you have to sell what the market wants rather than what you love. Yeah. The number of times I've met people who've fallen in love with a product. I'm opening a coffee shop because this is the best coffee I've ever had. Well, you're an idiot. Just because you like that coffee doesn't mean other people will like that coffee. I hear more people complain about Starbucks having shitty coffee and then they go and buy one. It's like, hang on a second. It's about what does the market want, not what do you fall in love with.
Mm. And so because I think sometimes there is a tendency for millennials to think, I want to go into business, and then they end up looking at things like technology. I must create an app. I must do something technical. and I sort of think, what about all the other businesses that are out there that are cash flow, positive, that are businesses that will always be needed,
Look, let's be really blunt about it. Zappos, one of the best success stories in online business, sells shoes. Amazon sells books. Mm. You know what I mean? It's not about it's about using technology to sell things that people already want, need, and buy. How do you use technology to be better at what it is? And that's where a lot of people fall short, because what they think of is that I have to build a business that's solely technology based. No, use technology like what you and I are doing right now, Sean. We don't sell a technologically based product, but we're using technology, Zoom, to make an interview that allows us to deliver the education and the information in a far faster format than me flying in and doing a seminar and spending 3 days traveling and 1 hour on stage.
Yeah. And I suppose the thing about that, because that's when we talk about things like leverage and how people obviously do more for less and things like that, do you think that there are businesses or business models out there that millennials are not looking at that they should probably be looking at?
Well, I think that first and foremost, business models is not something that most business people understand. Business modeling is about sitting down and saying, okay, what business model is it best that I'm going to get high scalability, high leverage that we're going to grow at? And when you look at things like the rental business or the licensing business, franchising business, distribution model business. See, all eBay is a distribution business. All Amazon is a distribution business. You know, when you look at these business models, network marketing, party plan, there's so many business models that are high scale, high growth businesses that, you know, we're not looking at. Unfortunately, what people try and do when they start a business is build the business around themselves. You know, and it's like, you know, they become the central cog in the entire operation. Whereas when you look at the businesses that grow the fastest, it's not built around the owner. It's built around a methodology or a business model that can grow real fast.
Yeah. So, I mean, sort of coming a bit away from that, I work with clients who are not millennials, who are, you know, they come to me and say, oh, you only deal with millennials, so you won't want to talk to me. And I explain to them that's not the case, because actually, you know, a lot of them now employ millennials and are looking to bring all of that creativity and that energy and that entrepreneurial sort of skill into their business. If you were talking to non-millennial business owners who were saying, look, you know, these are most of my staff now, what would you be saying in terms of how you build that sort of team that really works, that they then don't just come and then disappear really quickly once they've got some skills and ability, you know?
Look, I think first and foremost, we have to understand that in this day and age, the longevity of employment has decreased. It's no longer someone's going to be with you for 20 years. You know, it's a 3 to 5 year sort of thing. If you get them past 5 years, congratulations, well done. You know, and that's just simply the way the world is when you're employing people today, whether they're millennials or not. Now, when it comes to working with millennials, the funny thing is that the millennial generation are the Y generation. You know, I mean Y not as in the letter, but as in the word.
Yeah.
You know, they've always asked their parents, because when I was a kid, I asked my parents why, and the answer was because I said so. You know, and then as we got further in parenting, parents went to, well, I'll answer them. You know, and so by parents answering the why questions from their kids, those kids have grown up to be expecting a why answer from their coach or from their teachers and now from their employers. For me, I've always worked with why we do things in all of my companies. So I've not had to really change at all how I manage based on having millennials and not having millennials, because it's what we've always done. Why is always a very big part of why we do what we do, and who we are is a really important part of success in a business. Whereas what you do and how you do it is another part of it, but it's not the core central part of it. So I think it's, you know, it's not too complex, the difference. It's just understanding that people like to know why we are doing things, how they fit into the big picture, how they fit into the overall thing. And as long as people understand why they're there, and as long as they have learning opportunities, they're going to stay with you. Yeah,
absolutely. And I suppose then, you know, having culture and values in a business is really important. I know certainly within the ActionCOACH family, we talk about our 14 points of culture. And I suppose there is a lot of work that businesses can do in making sure that people know what the culture is and the values underpinning those.
Absolutely. You know, look, a business that doesn't have a clear set of values, call it points of culture, call it core values, whatever terminology you want to use. Once you have those in place, then you can employ properly. You can't employ properly until you know what they are, because you'll employ people who have the right set of skills but don't fit with the humans in your organization. If you have one human to an organization that doesn't fit the core values of that organization, everybody for a 6. I mean, it messes with the culture of the organization. And so you've got to make certain that the people coming to your team fit the culture.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it. I know, and I'm sure that you could even post a link, buddy. I did a video teaching people the culture at ActionCOACH. If you add that link to this post, I think that people will help to understand what we really mean by culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the exciting thing was I ran an action club, which is our group coaching program, and I ran it with some of my clients, and we actually spent a couple of the first, the sessions really underpinning this idea of what the vision is, what the culture is, because that is like the real building block for a business going forward.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. If we don't build a good, solid culture, and this is why, like, when I buy companies, one of the biggest things I have to do is restructure the culture of the organization, actually document what I want the culture to be. And that's why eventually I'll lose people when I start up these little buy companies, because they say, well, hang on, that started at this company with. I say, well, guess what? This is what it is going forward. If you don't like it, you can leave, and we'll find people who do like this culture. Because there are certain things that have to be in place for humans to perform at a high level, and there's certain cultures that have to be in place if you want to succeed in business. So if you don't have those, then business, I don't succeed.
Yeah. And I suppose then, sort of turning that on its head, you've got then, again, businesses that are trying to capitalize on the millennial market. So we know that in the UK, within the next year, the millennial generation will be bigger in terms of size than any other generation in the UK. And I know in the US, that's already the case, and that's already happened. So what sort of pointers or tips would you be offering to businesses now who are thinking about how do I capitalize on the sort of the market there that millennials present?
Yeah, well, first of all, you've got to decide, is that the market you want to go for?
Yeah.
You've got to make that decision, because certain products in certain industries, that's not the market that they need to be going for.
Yeah.
Or they shouldn't be going for. Now, if it is a market you want to go for, then of course you've got to start looking at every piece of marketing that you have, from your brand logo right through to, simple things. Is your website on a secure? Is it a mobile? Is your app ready for it? Because, we want to sell to millennials. Well, show me your app. Don't have one. Okay, well, you're not going to sell to millennials. It's just not going to happen type thing. They will shop from their hand, not from anywhere else. And so you've got to understand that. Then you've got to look at the experiential side of buying, because restaurants, retailers, all of these things, the experience is more important than anything. Even if you're a place for them to do a Snapchat that actually is like, wow, this is the coolest spot. Do you have things on the wall that are artistic in a way that they can join in? Like simple things. Does your restaurant have a set of angel wings on the wall that I can stand in front of and take a photo of? And, there's a great restaurant downtown London that does that. And it's like the amount of posts their restaurants get because they created something that simple is you can't try and not be a part of that. You have to make it happen. I mean, I know in our restaurant here in Las Vegas, I literally had all of our staff take photography lessons. We brought a photographer in to take them all through it. We had technology people come in and take them through every single major phone and how to take photos on it. Do you know what I mean? And then we taught every single one of them how to take a selfie, so that when they actually do it, they take a selfie before they take anyone's photo. Yeah. And, it's like simple, irreverent stuff, but these are the things you have to start thinking of. Now, the next thing is marketing is dying and ratings are growing. So your testimonials and ratings levels is going to be massively important to not just the millennial generation, but definitely the millennial generation.
Yeah. And I suppose, for that,
by the way, can I tell you the irony of you asking a guy my age about millennials? Is that not the best irony there is?
Well, yeah, maybe, but I suppose it is. But you could be an honorary millennial. I often say this. No, you can have that title if you want. It's mine to give away. There you go. I'll give that away. But in terms of testimonials, we find as well that millennial customers are quite loyal to a brand. And I know we talk when we coach our clients about the value of keeping and retaining our customers and having a sort of lifetime value rather than going out and chasing lots and lots of leads. What sort of things should businesses be thinking about now to focus more on retaining customers, particularly millennials, rather than going out and chasing for new leads and new business?
Yeah, again, firstly, the basics have to be done. Do you have a database? Do you keep in touch? Do you communicate? How do you communicate? Do you get them on your Instagram, following your page, etc.? All those basic things. The next thing is you got to remember, and if someone, like, I also have another video that maybe Sean you put up for people called The Ladder of Loyalty. And when you go through the ladder of loyalty, one of the interesting things is millennial generation is one of the fastest brand ambassador generations that exists. People love to show off the brand that they own. If they drive a BMW, the first thing they're going to do is post 4 billion pictures of them in their BMW type thing. You know, it's brand ambassador central. But a lot of companies aren't taking advantage of that. They don't have affiliate programs. They don't have. And so you've got to sit down and say, okay, if someone's going to be a referral source for us, how do we make it easy for them? How do we reward that? What competitions do we run for that? Do you even have a brand ambassador program? Like all of the clothing companies that are succeeding today have massive brand ambassador programs. Costs them nothing to give away 2 dresses to someone who has, 200,000 people on their social media following, but it's these sorts of things that are moving us forward in this day and age. So I think we've got to look at it from that perspective. Now, in retaining customers, the simple thing is that customer expectations keep getting better. So for instance, the millennial generation, if they walk into a restaurant that doesn't have Wi-Fi, they look at it and go, what? Whereas someone my age walks into a restaurant that doesn't have Wi-Fi and go, these guys are not, they're not catching up, because we never expected that when we first started out. The level of expectation keeps growing. Now, not only do people expect Wi-Fi, they expect it to be at a super speed. They expect to get it for free. They expect to not have to give a password when they join. They expect all these things. So you've got to remember that the consumer expectations continue to grow. So you've got to continue to grow with that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I'm really interested as well is that where you started young. I remember coming to your Finish It tour last autumn, and you were speaking about when you in effect first retired, because you'd you'd started really young. And I wonder what you learned from that, because a lot of millennials, if they do start their business early, and they have a however many year window, and then they think, actually, I've reached the point now where I've done what I wanted to do with this business. What sort of things did you learn going through that first retirement phase, in effect, that you would pass on now? Yeah,
look, I think that first and foremost, retirement isn't all it's cracked up to be. It's like playing golf with old guys was not fun when I was 26. Your prostate, what the heck's a prostate? It wasn't all it's cracked up to be. I think that at some point it becomes about the game. It becomes about achieving something greater than just financial impact. Yeah. There's 3 levels of goals out there in the world. And the first level of goal is a negative goal, where you're trying to get out of a negative situation. I don't want to be overweight. I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be working this many hours type thing. And it's, the problem with a negative goal is if you set the goal of, I don't want to be working 8 hours a week. I don't want to be working 8 hours a week. Guess what you end up doing? Working 8 hours a week. Positive goals is the second level of goal setting. So I want to be working 25 hours a week, 4 days at 6 hours, whatever the strategy is. Or I don't want to be overweight. I want to be able to run 3 miles a day, 4 days a week. So they're the sort of positive setting. And then eventually you get to, not just having the goal of having another BMW or another Ferrari or another house or that. Eventually you get to a goal that's more of a legacy goal, where you're looking at what will be your legacy that you leave behind. And it's hard when you're younger to contemplate a legacy goal. This generation is the best at it. There's more meaning coming through in this generation than there ever has been in the past. But that being said, it's not something that most people are going for. If someone shows me their dream chart, most of it is yachts, houses, holidays, etc. It's not giving money to a charity or being philanthropic. So, it's that learning phase. And while I'm on that, let's just touch on wealth just for a second, okay? There's a difference between income rich and asset rich. Remember this if you want to be rich, okay? You make the money, you invest the money, then you spend it from your investments. You don't spend from what you make. You don't use the money you make at your job to buy yourself a Ferrari. You use the money you make at your job to buy yourself investment properties or shares or businesses that then buy you the Ferrari. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I just want to throw that in there because it's a big one. Every time I'm chatting with millennials, they reward themselves too fast.
Right. So you would suggest that for them to reward themselves from in effect the profit of their investment, not from necessarily their first business.
Correct. Yeah, your income is not designed to be spent. Income is designed to be invested. Yeah, you've got to spend some of it for your cost of living, but the income is designed to be invested. The investment returns are designed to be spent.
Yeah. So just sort of on that then, let's since I've made you an honorary millennial today, let's go back and think about if you were a millennial now. So if you were at your 20s or early 30s now in this time, what would you be looking at in terms of opportunities? What trends, what things would you be thinking? Yeah, that's something that I'd be knowing your eye for an opportunity.
Yeah, first thing I would be looking at is if I hadn't, I would be getting a job in sales.
Yeah.
I would get a job in sales first and foremost, get paid to learn how to sell because there's one skill that will never go away in business, that's sales and marketing. If you can learn marketing and you can learn sales, that will steady you well. Second thing I'd be looking at is what's something that can go global. It's one of the greatest things about travel is that you see things in other countries. You go, hang on, I don't think I've ever seen that in America, or I don't think I've ever seen that in England. And you go, okay, I don't even have to come up with the idea. Someone else already came up with it. Let me just bring the idea to my city. And a real simple one. There's I don't know if you've ever been to Berlin, but they have those party bikes with the beer kegs, and you drive around in Berlin and. It's like, I live in Las Vegas. Hey, we don't have those in Las Vegas. I wonder what it would take to get them in Las Vegas. Do you know what I mean? It's like simple things like that where it just makes sense. And then the next thing you've got to be looking at, if I was millennial, would be how fast can I start investing? Where can I invest? And I'll give you the simplest strategy or two very simple strategies for young people who want to build wealth over their lifetime. Both of them in real estate. The first one is if you're young, you don't go out and get a house. Like you want to go and buy a house. You don't want to buy one with 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms. You want to buy one with 8 bedrooms. You want to buy it near a university or a hospital, or preferably between a university and a hospital. That would be even better. Okay. And what you want to do is buy it slightly run down or a little bit run down, and you move in there. You rent out each of the other 7 rooms. And while they're paying, because they'll pay the mortgage for you, the other 7 rooms being rented out will pay the mortgage, especially if you furnish them. And how do you furnish them? You go to garage sales and you buy furniture for £5 for a bed and £10 for a dresser and stuff. You furnish the house and all of a sudden they're paying the full mortgage. You're living rent-free and you're spending your time and energy to redoing that house, painting it, doing the floors, doing all the stuff that needs doing. And over a year or 2, you build massive value into that house, and then you go and do another one. So you do 2 or 3 of those, and then you've got plenty of equity to go and buy your own home. Now, when you buy your own home, don't buy a brand new home. Buy something that's run down for 2 years, fix it up, and then do it again. Never sell any of these homes, though. Use the equity you build in them to buy the next one and buy the next one. And after about 20 years of life of living, you'll have developed 10 homes for yourself, and you'll have lived in them. And hey, presto, you're rich. I mean, your own home can be a really good investment if you buy something that needs fixing up, work on it for 2 years, that sort of stuff. You'd only be watching stupid TV shows anyway, so don't worry about that. Or put the stupid TV show on in the background while you're painting the dang thing. Do you know what I mean? It's not complex.
So, and I suppose I'm going to just throw something out that I think I probably know the answer to. But one of the things that's current in terms of like investment is cryptocurrency. Yeah, I knew I'd get an answer like that. So I was just wondering on your take on something like that.
Look, very simply put, cryptocurrency is the current boom thing that's going to boom, and then it'll go back to normal. It's just, that's what it is. The challenge with investing in something like a cryptocurrency is 100% of it could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
And now we've got like everyone starting their own cryptocurrency. We've got all of these people jumping on the bandwagon, starting their own cryptocurrency. It's the same as, when the internet boom first started, everyone jumped on it and it made a lot of money for a lot of people. I guarantee you that people who understand what they're doing right now, Sean, will make a ton of money out of crypto, a ton of money out. But then there's, it's just one of those things. In 3 years' time or 5 years' time, when it's gone or when it's gone back to normal performance levels, what are you going to do then?
Yeah.
So I look at investments that are long-term and can be around forever. That's just, pretty simple way of investing. The reason I love real estate is real simple, is that you buy it once and you set it and forget it.
Yeah. Fair enough. And then same with the business, I assume as well. You'd invest in businesses as a priority.
Well, business is always a priority because it's the highest returning asset class for one specific reason. You can fix it. So if you buy a business that's not run well, and the thing behind it is, remember, businesses' price, the value of a business is based on its profitability. So if you're buying a business and you double its profits, guess what you just did to the value of the asset? You just doubled your investment. You got a 100% return on investment. That's not hard in business if you kind of know what you're doing.
Yeah.
To do 100% ROI in real estate or in shares, now that is dang hard.
Yeah.
But, so where business, I can get 100% on a business in 3 to 6 months by just going in and fixing a bunch of things. And again, I didn't get it that fast in the beginning because in the beginning I didn't really know what I was doing.
So there for someone getting into that, getting someone who can help them do that is probably a good idea to get you there quicker.
Well, geez, who would think that you'd want them to hire a great coach, Sean? That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
I would like them to say, yeah.
Actually, I did get to read some testimonials from some of your clients before coming on our call today, and I must say, congratulations. They do love you. They do. Actually, some of them don't. Some of them are like, I don't really like him that much. He works me too hard.
One me is scary, and I think scary is a good word to use, really, as a coach. So that's
if a coach does not push you hard, they're not a good coach. It's as simple as that. So, congrats on people thinking you're scary. I like that.
Good.
But for anyone watching this, if you haven't spoken with Sean or met with Sean, pick up the phone or send a text or an email. Get in touch with the guy and chat with him. It's amazing how many business owners, Sean, will watch a video like this and go, yeah, that seems to make sense. And then not even talk to you. Get on the phone, go meet the guy.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for that. Finally, if I can, because I'm conscious of your time, I think that you've probably made reading cool again, because I know that you're a big reader. And I know you take this view about reading a book a week. And I don't think I've met anybody who has read as many books around business and personal development as you have. And I know that you talk a lot about Jim Rohn, who's a fantastic thinker and writer in this field. Do you have any recommendations for writers, books that you think that absolutely people should really get hold of? Except obviously your books, which will have a link underneath and are brilliant. But books that you've read that you've thought, wow, that has absolutely changed the game for me.
Look, buddy, over it's like 2,500 or almost 3,000 books that I've read now. I still go back to some of the originals, the Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. I mean, when Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, what you got to remember is he was tasked with interviewing the 100 most successful, richest people on the planet. And that in and of itself has just never happened since. No one's been able to do that. And that's where I think those sorts of things. But I guess the simple answer to that, Sean, is the only book I can recommend is the one where you go into the bookstore or you go online to Amazon and you look at it and you go, wow, that suits me right now. And because I tell you to read a book a week, guess what? Buy 10, because the next 10 weeks will be busy. It's like people look at mine, which of your books should I read first? Just buy all of them and get through them over the next 16 weeks. Actually, I'll tell you, the first book everyone should buy is a speed reading book. Any book on speed reading or mind mapping, those are your first books you should read. Because, when I say a book a week, people are like, I don't have time for that. Well, it's speed reading. I mean, I get through a book in about an hour. And now, in fact, you don't even have to read anymore. Get an Audible subscription. Jump on Audible, buy yourself a book a week on Audible. And just when you're in the train or in your car or wherever you are, just listen to that book.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking of books then, just to conclude, your book, you mentioned the 17th book. When's that out? When's that due out?
That's out at the end of the year. Wealth Coach has just been released. So the Wealth Coach has just hit the market. And then the next book, which is Pulling Profits, is the magic of adding zeros to a business. So that'll be out at the end of the year. I think actually it might be January next year. My publishers keep telling me different things, so got to keep them on track. And that one, again, hopefully it'll be another bestseller. So that's a good thing.
I'm sure it will. And obviously you're going to be coming over in April, so we'll see you at the Business Excellence Forum.
I am very excited to be at the Business Excellence Forum. Not just because it's in Liverpool, but also because Kenny Dalglish is speaking there. It's like King Kenny's on it. It's like I think I want to sit and listen to him. And learn this. One of the greatest things about an experience of being a speaker is that I get to sit and listen to the other speakers as well. And I just was in Dublin, and all me was Baroness Moan, Lady Michelle Moan. And then after me speaking was Sir Richard Branson. So it was like I was between a lady and a lord. It's like, okay, this is really this young Aussie upstart is the one between the member of the House of Lords and a Sir. I mean, this is fun. But yes, definitely come along, listen in, gang. There's so much to learn and so many great speakers going to be there. And I just get to be the one that hangs out with all of them.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Well, thanks very much for giving up your time. It's really, really appreciated. Thank you for being my first interviewee. And I will make sure this gets out and I'll add some of those links as well. And I'll see you at Liverpool, hopefully with some people who want to come along as well to hear from you and some of the other guys at BEF.
Thanks, Sean. Great to be your first ever interview. Really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Thanks. Take care.